We are live with the community. This is the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Development bi-weekly call. Today is January 18th. We are already midway through January in 2024, everybody. Before we know it, it's going to be January 19th. See what I did there? All right, let's talk about what we're going to talk about. Today's agenda, we have got the latest updates on the community and a variety of other programs, .NET Libraries, PowerShell, Microsoft Teams Toolkit. We're going to talk about some script samples, Microsoft Teams samples, Power Platform samples, and then, of course, everybody's favorite time, picture time and together mode. Hopefully it's working today. And then we've got at least two amazing presentations today. Frank is going to cover PnP Modern Search and Core Component, one of the amazing. And then Shrushti is going to cover Build Custom Connector and Power Platform to generate images from Azure OpenAI DALLE model. So I think we're all excited for some more Azure OpenAI and AI stuff. So looking forward to that. Another awesome. And then, I don't know, this next guy, David Warner, allow myself to introduce myself. Setting up your environment for Power Platform UI, UX animations is a last-minute add-on, so we're excited, everybody. We're going to have some fun today. Let's talk about some resources that are available to each and every one of you. We start out with our videos. These are Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community videos. They're absolutely free. They're all on YouTube across multiple channels and available for you to always stay educated and updated and see what amazing things are being done with our technology by both Microsoft and the community. In fact, these calls are on there, so definitely go subscribe. You can see those at ak.ms/community/videos. We've got a LinkedIn group for discussions, an opportunity to collaborate there, as well as Discord, which we'll talk about in the end. We've got open source initiatives, and of course I mentioned those sample galleries, so Team samples, SPFX samples, Power Platform list formatting, it goes on and on and on. There's a plethora, which means that there's a lot of them, everybody, and you only need to remember one, which is ironic because we've got a plethora, but you only need to remember one thing, and that's aka.ms/community/home. So you hit that link, it'll give you access to all this goodness. And of course, you're on this call probably because you enjoy community calls. Guess what? We enjoy it too. We've got our Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community call that happens weekly, and we just kicked that back off a couple weeks ago, just as a reminder for everybody. So it is weekly now. It is off holiday break, and it is Microsoft presenters. So definitely take advantage of joining that. You're going to hear directly from the horse's mouth or the mothership, from those product managers and program managers that are building the cool features that we are excited about. We've got our monthly Power Platform call, which happened yesterday. A bunch of cool demos on that. Ryan, who's here, had one yesterday on UI UX, which folds nicely into today's. And of course, we've got our Office add-ins, and then the bi-weekly sibling calls, Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Community Development, which you're on now, and Viva Connections and SharePoint Framework, which happens next Thursday. So definitely go to aka.ms/community/calls and get those invites on your calendar. Taking a quick look at next week's weekly Microsoft speakers call. We've got Waldeck joining us on extending Copilot for Microsoft 365 with Graph Connectors. DC Padur is going to be here on the latest on the SharePoint Pages API in Microsoft Graph. And then why not? Let's throw another graph in there, or what's new in Microsoft Graph Toolkit with our favorite Sebastian Levert. So definitely get that on your agenda. Did I say definitely? I think I've only said it like 27 times, so we got some places to go. All right. Now, as you're watching everybody today, you may be thinking, I want to show some cool stuff off. And you got some cool stuff to show off, and we want you to. So we welcome everyone to present on this. And it's super easy to make it happen. All you got to do is fill in this form, aka.ms/community/request/demo. That will give you access. You give us a title, short description. We'll reach out to you. We'll schedule it. Don't overthink it. It doesn't have to be any invention that's going to change the world. Just a favorite technique, maybe a favorite feature, a new feature, something that you found useful that you forgot about. That's always helpful, reminding people of things that they've always known in the past, but maybe can't remember now. So don't overthink it. If you want someone to buddy up with, let us know that too, and we will absolutely get you taken care of and buddy you up with someone to ensure that you are able to successfully and confidently complete the demo. And of course, sharing is caring. We appreciate everybody's patience. We're getting those office hours started up, just hit a couple of logistical snags there. So be on the lookout for that very, very soon. And we're excited to launch those new 2024 initiatives within that program. Of course, we wouldn't be in 2024 without a 2024 badge for our recognition program. So If you are not aware of this, we want to make you aware. It is a free program that is powered by Credly. You get those official and accredited badges that allow you to share them and associate them to LinkedIn and Twitter, put them on your blog, put them on your resume, let your clients and or managers know that you are making a difference in the community. And it is absolutely free. We cover all the costs by Credly. All we ask you to do is opt in at ak.ms/community/recognition. We will track the amazing work that you're doing in GitHub and our community initiatives, and we will reward you and award you with these badges. We just hit over 1,000, so help us get even higher. We're looking forward to seeing what you all have to share. All right, let's jump into some project-specific updates, and we're going to begin with .NET and Bert.
Thank you, David. For .NET, for the framework library, we fixed kind of a nasty bug, I would say, because the builds were broken because we system identity model tokens and JWT package apparently needed a newer version. But that finally is fixed, so everything builds again, and there's a new nightly. On the core SDK side, we had a bit more changes over the last period. Paul Edward did a change on the from list data stream, which is like our way to deal with the list data stream API call, and was an issue with the handling multi-user fields, so he fixed that. Thanks for that, Paul. Florian did improve the IPNB context interface, because that's used for like mocking. So if you want to mock your implementation, your code with PNP course gate as possible, and this was missing, so thanks for that, Florian. And then we had two other small changes, one around adding events. So apparently, depending on how you create an events list, if you do it via the web part, it adds up on a different URL, so there's no /list anymore, so just site/events. And there was something new and that broke adding. And finally, another kind of little small gotcha on the root side. If you have Viva connections, the announcements for Viva connections, they are a pages library. So now we have two pages libraries on one side collection, and that was something that we didn't foresee upfront, causing issues, but that's fixed as well. I think that's the main things for the .NET libraries. I'm also covering PowerShell, right, David? I don't see Gautam in the call.
Please, yeah, I don't see him either.
All right, okay. So PowerShell side. I think the key thing to call out here is that there was some issue with Power Automate. So if you have Power Automate issues with your PowerShell scripts, just switch to the latest nightly build because the team fixed that. Furthermore, there are some couple of smaller fixes done, one around add PNP navigation node. So now you can kind of say like open the navigation node in a new tab, which you can do in the UI. You couldn't do that with the commandlet. And then a smaller change in the PNP Teams channel message reply commandlet. No clue what they did there, but okay. But yeah, it's there. So go check it out and use PowerShell. Highly recommend it. And with that, over to you, David.
Awesome. Thank you, Bert. Excellent job, everybody. Next up is Teams Toolkit with John Miller. Woo, flying away, PowerShell.
Nice animations. Teams Toolkit is our tools for building Teams apps and Outlook apps, and also M365 apps. So don't be confused by the name Teams Toolkit. It does many more things, but we have some new versions available. Preview 3 is out for VS. So there's all of our new templates there. So lots of stuff. If you've been using the VS Code Toolkit, you'll see a lot of parity there. If not, then we have AI chat stuff. We have lots of AI templates. So to check that out, the test tool is in there, so you can debug bots without having an account or even using a tenant. So that gives you a good way to get started without really any barriers to entry. And there's some quality of life improvements in there as well. So happy to share that. So if you want to chat about any of those features, or you're not happy or you're super happy, there's a link there, TTK-chat. You can schedule some time directly with me. Would love to hear from you. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Let's move on over to Microsoft Graph Toolkit with Bo's favorite Sebastian Levert.
Thanks, David. So what's new for Graph Toolkit? We are yet still on our 3.1.3 version. It's been now a little bit over 3 months. We are coming with our V4. That's why you've seen a little bit of a slower pace on releasing updates to V3. We're all steam ahead on V4. Lots of documentation updates, lots of great foundational capabilities that will really help building applications with the toolkit. So that's really, really great. New storybook enhancements on our mgt.dev, where you will be able now to see your React components, React documentation as part of our storybook. So documentation will now be available for both HTML or web components and React over there. We're also working really, really hard on our Microsoft Graph Toolkit chat components. that are connecting to Teams conversations with the help of so many other teams at Microsoft. We're building that capability. It's going to be great. Should be already available right now in public preview, but should be available in GA in the next few months. So feel free to have a look. You can already either download our v4 by doing an npm install at Microsoft/mgt@next, or if you want to do the same thing for chat components, you can do npm install at Microsoft/mgt@mgt.chat. You should be able to see all of that. Back to you, David.
Thank you, Seb. Excellent work. Excited for those new features. Let's move to script samples. Paul's out today, so got some new scenarios for using PnP PowerShell by Reshmi and Casper, as well as updated scenarios by Valera. So lots of opportunity here. Friends, this is one of the easiest ways to get involved in the community because we all have those utility samples that do amazing things. So share them. Paul is a fantastic maintainer. He is very nice to work with, and we are also working on some new badges for 2024 for this as well with those 1, 2, and 3 star, and we're actually doing some redesigns on this one. So we're taking some new design spaces in the badge arena. So be on the lookout for that. Very excited. Reach out to Paul if you have any questions. You can also check out at aka.ms/script samples. And next up, Microsoft Teams samples with Bob German.
Hey, hi everybody. Yeah, how are y'all doing? So we've got a cool new sample this week, which is a meeting lifecycle bot. So what's going on here is, if you've ever been to a meeting, you probably noticed that there's time before the meeting, there's time when you're in the meeting, and there's time after the meeting. And if you were to write an application for Teams that runs in meetings, it would need to know whether the meeting has happened, whether we're in the middle of it or after it, so that it could behave differently. It can be a little bit tricky, and Marcus Moeller, the amazing, has actually built another sample that shows how to do this in C# with Teams Toolkit. And he's got a kind of a simple but very useful UI here where you can rate the meeting and say whether or not you were happy or sad or just kind of neutral about it. So check it out. The URL is on the screen. Thanks, Marcus. And back to you, David.
Awesome. Thank you, Bob. Yeah. And I think did you say miraculous, Marcus, or amazing?
They all apply. Yeah.
I know. I feel like there's a ring to miraculous Marcus, right?
Miraculous Marcus.
Marvelous.
Right. That's the new name. Yeah.
We got it going on. Yeah. There you go. Awesome. All right. And welcoming to our call is Kate, who is going to start covering our Power Platform samples. You've all likely seen her doing an amazing job in processing all those samples. Kate, tell us what we got.
Thank you very much, David. Hi, everyone. So today I'm very excited to share that we have 3 new samples in our Power Platform Sample Solution Gallery. These are a Creator Kit template from Shahir, Badger Fix from Angelo, and Circular Timer component from Olga. Thank you for your work. Your contributions are deeply appreciated. And I wanted to remind to everyone that all these samples are unmanaged, free for use, change, and inspiration. So do not forget to share more, because sharing is caring. Back to you, David.
Woo! I love it. I love it.
Woo!
Everybody loves it. Sharing is caring. So thank you, Kate. Excellent job. Looking forward to seeing those in the future as well. All right, everybody. Turn those cameras on to show us your fantastic faces. Let's
see how it works today. Yeah. So let's see. I think we had a problem yesterday, and we might have a problem today as well. So I did try to go with the multiple different rings without results. But hey, we can always do gallery, and that seems to be working. So anybody who's willing to enable the camera, let's see if this actually works.
I tell you what, even when you put a ring on it, Teams is unwilling to commit, right? Is that how?
That's true. The rings are basically our internal versions which are using. But let's see if we can actually make this work. However, now we have a challenge that we are in multiple views. So let's see if we can actually do large gallery. So that's the one, right? David, you used this one
Well, what's funny is regular gallery was showing multiple for me. Large gallery was not, but regular gallery was showing all the multiples.
There we go. So
maybe the ring thing.
It might be a ring thing. Now this is showing now multiple bases. I think we kind of missed the picture today. So
man,
this is bad. This is bad. I know.
I couldn't make it. We can't have nice things.
That's the thing. No can do.
All right.
No can do. We'll be back next week with the picture.
We will. We'll just ask. Maybe Shrushti could do something at OpenAI that had DALL-E. Great. Got him out. All right, everybody. Let's get back to our regularly scheduled program. We are going to kick it off with our amazing presenters today. So Franck is here. He's going to start covering PnP Modern Search core components. Franck, take it away.
Thank you, David. So hi, everybody. I just share my screen. Let me know what you can see.
Yep, got it. Looks great.
Perfect. So yeah, today I will cover a new initiative regarding the PnP model search components. Actually, you may have seen new solution regarding PnP model search, which is called the PnP model search core component, and I have like 30 minutes to talk about it this morning. So a quick word about me. Franck Cornu, I'm Microsoft 365 developer at Ubisoft Montreal. Microsoft 365 development, also the original author of the PnP model search solution. Let's say the classic one. Open source contributor. I have also a blog, which is not so active, but I think it's still there. But let's jump into it about the PnP model search core components. So basically, what are they? A quick summary. So those components comes directly from a project we had at Ubisoft regarding our Microsoft Search implementation. So it's an open source version of what we have at Ubisoft. So it had been tested, it's deployed in production in our environment, and we made an open source version of that. So these are web components to build basically a search experience on any web application. And if you know already the Microsoft Graph Toolkit, well, it's basically the same because it's built over the Microsoft Graph Toolkit. We have a dedicated GitHub repository, which is different from the PnP model search one. So it's called PnP model search core component. And we provide basically the same search results, filters, search box, verticals, and also some other components. You have two ways to consume those components. We provide the JavaScript bundle that can be included in an HTML page. I will show that in a minute. Or we also provide an npm package so you can integrate into your application. We have documentation as well, general documentation to get started. So I put the URL there, and also a live program, just like the Microsoft Graph Toolkit. So you can test all the components, parameter, and the behavior, and so on. So this is basically what are they. So now, what do I need to get started? Because it relies on the graph, Microsoft Graph, the first things to do would be to create an Azure application and configure the API permissions regarding the Microsoft Search requirements. So, for instance, site with all, people with all, for directory, whatever. And like I said, you have two ways to consume those components. The first is using the GS bundle. So basically include the scripts there, which with the version number into your HTML page. Very simple. And the other ways used to. Sorry. You need to use the npm package. So we provide the PnP modern search core on npm, so you can use it into your application. We also have a sandbox page for development and component testing. I will show that in a minute, but basically you have to clone the repo, install the dependencies, and then serve the components. Now, a quick word about the differences between the PnP model search and the core components. So these are not the same. The core components are not a replacement of PnP model search. These are two different things. And the main difference is the core components can be used basically anywhere, like in any web application. We do provide sharpened web parts as well, but they are just basically a wrapper over those components. PnP model search is just for sharpened canvas. A big difference as well is core components is only about Microsoft Search and Microsoft Graph. We don't have sharpened search anymore. So basically, you can't really, you can do the same now with sharpened search on Microsoft Search. So Microsoft Search API is mature enough basically to use it over the traditional sharpened search API. So this is a big difference as well. And the technical stack is completely different. So PnP model search is SPFX web part with React. core component is our little element with Microsoft Graph Toolkits. And the templating system as well is not the same. We changed the handlebars thing with now JavaScript templating that comes from Microsoft Graph Toolkit. And basically, if you are only in SharePoint, you only need to build search experiences in SharePoint. You don't need basically to upgrade or update. P-model search is fine and it won't be deprecated, so you can use it. And we do provide SharePoint web parts as well for core components, and you can use them in the same page, in the same tenant, along the PNP model search web parts. Now, demo time, enough chit chat. I will just share the first scenario, which is the sandbox page. So just a quick word about the GitHub repository. You have the GitHub repository there, PNP model search component. So to use the solution locally, you have to clone the repository, go on the project, install the dependencies like pnpm install, and then serve the application. And it will serve the application locally, and then you will be able to test it. So in the project, we provide an indexed HTML page, and you can use it basically to configure the components locally and see the behavior. Of course, you have to provide an application first. You have to create an application first with the client ID and your tenant. And then you can update this page automatically. It will reload the page behind it. So normally it started there. Yeah, and we also provide a debug configuration, so you can test here. Okay, that's done. And as you can see, this is a test page, basically. So it gives you like an example of what you can do with the component. So we have a search box, search box there, verticals, filters, and the results. So it's really, if you use the PNP model search in the past, it's really the same. The behavior is quite the same. So no really new things there. And using the sandbox page, you can just update and test locally the component's behavior. So that's for the first use case. Just noted a couple of differences we have with the PNP model search is now we support the language as well, so we can change the language on the fly. We have a couple of updates and improvements over the PNP model search, but basically this is the same. So that's for the first scenario, locally testing the components. Now the second use case is when you want to integrate those components to a static HTML page, let's say. So I've created a page on a notepad, basically, there. So very simple, actually. So as you can see, I just include the scripts there, the bundle, configure the provider. You may notice also in the library, we prefix the Microsoft Graph Toolkit component with the PNP to avoid the PNP prefix to avoid conflicts. So just don't forget that. But overall, this is the same, and these are the same component as the Microsoft Graph Toolkit. So just use this page with an input like a search box and the results. And if I basically a simple use case, if I want to preview this page, what I can do is just go on, let's say, there on my Azure environment. I have a storage account just to host a page. Come on. Yeah, container there. And I hosted this page in a container there, for instance, just to have clear. Yeah, there we go. Take that page, the URL, and go there. As you can see, you have all the components there. You have the signing button, so it will log me in. Yeah. It's quite slow. And here you go. So very simple, just few HTML markup, and then you're able to see this kind of page. You also have a debug mode if you want to test the context and inspect the data returned by the API and by the component. So first case, include the JS bundle. Now we also have SharePoint web part as well, if you want to embed those components into a SharePoint page. So that's the last use case, I will say. So I will just go to a SharePoint site there. And so I already deployed the solution in my site collection app catalog, and I can just create a new page there. And you will see the new web parts. Blank page, yes. Okay. Test one, remove that. And now you should see new web part with new icon. So the same as PNP mode and search box, filters, results, and vertical. So the first one is the results, of course. So if you already use the PNP mode and search in the past, it's pretty much the same, but it's only for Microsoft Search. There is no data source choice anymore. So you can put pretty much anything there. The query or the authentication issue, common SPFX. Yeah. Thanks. So it's the same query text, query template with tokens, and also some provided layout. So it's quite different. Actually, it's quite different from the PNP mode and search. So let's say I will search for documents. Only documents there. Yeah. And I can switch to, let's say, tiles. And you can also provide your own template. So, like I said, this is no more handlebars there. This is like JavaScript templates. And it follows the same templating feature as the Microsoft Graph Toolkit. So if you know web components, these are called slots, when you can just update basically part of the UI. So depending on the layout on the component, you can update some part of the component. So for instance, this is the template for the items, but for other components, we have also other slots provided. So we'll add a search box there. Also a filter. So we'll show you the complete configuration. So for the filter, we also have the connection system between web ports. So for instance, connect. So it's a two-way connection, just like before. Same for the search web port there, search filter. And when you configure the filter now, you have basically all the options you had before. And we also support now localization of the filter. So use the file type there. We also have an aggregation feature, quite useful. For instance, if you want to group some values into just one entry in the filter. Perfect. So like I said, you have multiple options for filters now. Templates, localization, actually display name, and so on. Aggregation as well. And the connection is done like between web ports the same way as before. And you can have the same basically behavior. Behind the scene, these are the same components, exactly the same, and you can connect all the components together, so the search box and so on, filters, vertical, and so on. That's exactly the same. Last component, which is the vertical, exactly the same as before. Let's say tab 1, whatever, a tab key, and you can configure now the visibility of the search component with the vertical. So it's basically the same vertical, and you can say, okay, show the specific search result on this tab. So as you can see, this is basically the same behavior that PNP modulation, but behind the scenes, we use the components, and the options you basically see there are the same you can use on, basically these are the same there. We just translate the components, and we just provide a nice UI to the SPFX web part panel to configure that. But behind the scene, these are the web components we are using. So I think this is, I'm done for the basically for the get started thing. If you need more information, you have of course the repository there. You have the documentation, how to get started, and you have also, like I said, a playground for all the components if you want to test all the parameters and what can do. So this is not a live connection there, so we are not using your data, it's just a mock there. But basically you can test, for instance, the behavior of all the parameters and so on. So I think it's okay on my side. Back to you, David. And if you have any questions, let me know in the chat.
Yeah, awesome, Frank. Yeah, friends, bar none, PNP Search is one of the best tools you can use for SharePoint Search. So don't hesitate to check it out, get involved, and even contribute to it as well. There's opportunities there. So thank you, Frank. Excellent demo. We're excited for even more of these with you and Casper. Okay, Shrushti is up next. Build a custom connector and Power Platform to generate images from Azure OpenAI DALLE models. So Shrushti, feel free to take it away.
Thank you, David, and thanks, Frank, for the great demo. Let me just share my screen. Let me know once you can see it.
Yep, it is there. Good to go.
Okay, so I assume I have just around 20 minutes. So I'll quickly walk you through these slides because this is just about Azure OpenAI, how you can use it, some little details. So you can find it out later once we wrap up the demo. So according to today's topic, which is custom connector and how you can use custom connector, but here I've built something new, which is I'm consuming Azure OpenAI DALLE service and built a custom connector on top of it and using that in the Power Platform, just like Power Apps or Power Automate, you can use it anywhere. So let me kickstart something about myself. So my name is Shrushti Shah, and I'm a technical consultant at Rapid Circle. Along with that, I'm also a Microsoft MVP, and I speak across various conferences, events. So you can find some good content around Power Platform, Microsoft 365, or Teams. I post it on LinkedIn or my blog site. That's just something short about me. And I'll quickly start with Azure OpenAI, giving some little background around what it is and what kind of service models it provides so that we can understand how I can use Azure OpenAI service, like how I can consume. So quickly starting with what is Azure OpenAI. So it is nothing new. Azure OpenAI is built on top of OpenAI, and what it provides is it provides different kind of models, just like as mentioned, GPT-4, GPT 3.5 Turbo, embeddings model, DALL-E is one such as well. So it provides you the REST APIs for these models. So either you can build machine learning models on top of it, or you can consume this REST APIs in some or the other web application, or just like wrap this APIs as part of custom connector, or do n number of things with just OpenAI. Let me strictly go to how you can get access to Azure OpenAI. So definitely this is right now not available for everyone. It has limited access. You can just, there is this application link probably after the demo, I can post it in the chat so that you can apply and maybe you can get the access and you can start creating the Azure OpenAI service in Azure portal and then just play with the chat playground, which is provided in Azure and ready to consume it in your any of the web application, whichever way you want. Coming to the next, what features Azure OpenAI provides. So as seen in the table, it provides some of the models. So which are these models? These are GPT-4, GPT 3.5 Turbo embeddings. Also, you can do fine tuning. So for fine tuning, there are different type of model types like 0613, Babbage, DaVinci. These are the different fine tuning, which is right now in preview. Pricing, probably you can check it out later. Along with that, if you are not very much into the coding or if you just want to explore Azure OpenAI, then you are all good. You don't need coding experience. Once you create your Azure OpenAI service in Azure portal, you can play this with these models like GPT-3, 3.54, DALL-E, or new, which is speech. You can play with all of these right in the Azure AI Studio. Also, there are a few more features like content filtering. This is the utmost important feature, I would say, because whenever we write prompts or whenever bot replies to us with some of the responses, that is when this is the whole area where we are working with content, right? Either in the form of text or images, etc. So this should be moderated in terms of what kind of language you are using, whether you are allowing some harsh language or not. So all these, if someone is typing in something bad, it should definitely filter and not show such results relevant to that. So content filtering, we have a separate section in Azure. I'll quickly walk you through once I'm done with the slides. Next, difference between Azure OpenAI and OpenAI. This is, I think, one of the biggest question everyone has. What exactly is the difference between AZ, OpenAI, and OpenAI? So as you can see from this slide, Azure OpenAI service gives customers the advanced AI models like OpenAI, GPT-4, Codex, DALL-E, etc. And Azure OpenAI is has co-developed the APIs with OpenAI. Okay, so another big thing is you have your all the security intact, which Azure already provides. So it is co-developed with OpenAI, but yeah, we have Microsoft has added new features, etc. as well. Just like Azure OpenAI also offers you the private networking, regional availability, and obviously responsible AI and content filtering, just like I mentioned. These are the services. I'll skip the slides. I'll come straight to the important factor, which is REST API, which we're dealing with today. So let me come straight to the point about what exactly custom connectors are. Yeah. So when I talk about custom connector, firstly, the question arises, why do I need custom connector? Probably when you go to the Power Platform, you will find more than, I don't know the exact figure, but there are many connectors which are available for you to use. Either it can be a SharePoint, Teams, or there are few of the other Gmail, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. All these connectors are already available to you. And there are some other premium connectors as well, which you can use like SQL Server, Azure, etc. So then what is the need for custom connector? Maybe assume that you have you or your organization is a third-party has a third-party application which is developed, and those connectors are not freely available as part of Microsoft Suite. Then how do you interact with your application and build workflows or applications so that you can give a good UI or automate that? So definitely, if you have a third-party application, you would have some APIs like get API, post, or delete. Whenever you're working with data, you build some APIs for yourself. So custom connectors is nothing but a wrapper around your APIs. What you can do is you can use that API, wrap it around in the form of connector, and then use it for your automation or applications. So let's just go ahead and see it in action. Okay. Yeah. So I'll be going to the Power Platform from scratch so that you all can relate it with me. Okay, I think this page is very much familiar with everyone. This is the portal, make.powerapps.com. And you can go to the custom connectors, or just to give you the insights, if you go to the connections, if you create a new connection, and you will find all these connectors with which you can make connection to. So for example, let me just search by SharePoint. Yes, this is already available. And now if I search by some of the different third party like SQL Server, this is the premium one. So I can connect. These connections allows you to connect with these services so that you can directly automate and create or build apps on top of it. But now let's say I have a pet kind of application where I keep an information about all my pets, what breed that those pets are about, and I don't have that application integrated with Microsoft, but I have APIs. What I can do is I can go to the custom connector. This is what I have done for Azure OpenAI. I have built a connector here. I'll just edit it. Now you'll say, how will I get the information about REST APIs for DALL-E? So coming to Azure OpenAI, what you have to do is once you get the access to Azure OpenAI, you go to portal.azure.com. Just search by Azure OpenAI, you will find this. And you are good to create an Azure OpenAI service. So if I create one, all you need is subscription, resource group, region, name, pricing tier. So in the pricing tier, as of now, I can only create a standard one. But once you create it, you will have Azure OpenAI service created for you. So I've already created 2 of them. So I'll go to the existing one. So this is the custom DALL-E, which I've created. All the details of this Azure OpenAI service, we'll find it here. These are the keys and endpoint, which is good to consume. Now, this endpoint is not, you can't just pick this endpoint up and just say that, hey, I can use this and I'll get the image, or I'll get the generated image. No, you also have to add some more things at the end of the endpoint. We'll see that. In the model deployments, go to manage deployments. Just giving a minute to load. I just created the service. I haven't created any of the deployments. So whenever I want to chat, or I want to generate an email, I want to just create a LinkedIn post, or any of those generation, or I want to generate an image, I need a deployment for me as well. So how you can do that, you have to create a deployment. This will use that model, just like you see GPT-35, 35 Turbo 16, or Instruct or text embedding. So as of now, as you can see, I've created my DALI, and this is using 0914 GPT-35 Turbo Instruct. And now when I go to DALI preview, let me just type in just the sample which is already added, Seattle skyline, and hit generate. It will generate an image for me. And then you can also, there are a few options which you can do. You can copy that prompt. You can generate a new image, download it, and view the code or delete it. So we are going to view the code. Let's just hit show code. And here are all the details what you need to create a custom connector. So I'll go to JSON. So this is it. This is my endpoint, and this is the body. But the endpoint, this is just the host. What exactly we are doing is we are generating an image. So those all things, queries are added along with the API version. What I'm going to use, not this one, but this one to generate an image for me. I also have the key, which is definitely needed. So there are two ways by which you can go ahead and use this DALI. One is a HTTP connector in your Power Platform, but I would not recommend you to use that. The best way is to wrap your APIs and create a custom connector and then use it. So just to create an image, what all you need? A prompt, definitely, because you have to say what kind of image you want to generate, how many number of images you want to generate, and the size. So let's just go back to the custom connector. It is a very simple 4-step process. One is you have to give general information, which is what is the icon for your custom connector. So now when I go to the flows, just to show you an example, okay, I will create a new instant cloud flow. Just okay. Now here, whatever you see are the connectors. These are built. Some are built-in, standard, premium, custom. These icons which you see and the name, exactly this we are doing it here while we are creating our own custom connector. You can keep your sample icon or whatever your organization icon, etc. Icon background color description. This is an image generator custom connector for me. What kind of schema are you using for your endpoint? Definitely HTTPS, because that is the most it is the encrypted version and also secured. So I'll go with HTTPS. Next is host. Now, where will I get this information from? Again, go back to your Azure OpenAI service. You will find the host here, customdali.openai.com. You don't have to add HTTPS because that is the scheme and the base URL. Now, once you are done with the generic information, next is how are you going to authenticate your API? Definitely, there are n number of authentication. Here, if I click on edit, you will see these are the supported authentications. No authentication, basic authentication key, and OAuth 2.0. But as you just saw in that DALI, we have a key which we can use it. So I went ahead and I selected the API key. Next, where do I want this API key to be part of? Obviously in the header. So whenever you add a post call, there is an endpoint, body, and header. In the header, you add your API key and content type, how you want your content to be generated as. So I've just given some basic information. The name is API key, where it should be located, header. Once that is done, now we have to define our connector. So here, there are two important steps. First, you have to analyze whatever you are generating is a trigger or an action. So as part of Power Platform, if you are creating a trigger, then it will sit here. If you're creating action, it will sit here, and each of that entity will be different. So I've created two actions. One is DALI generate image. I'll tell you why I've created two. I've consumed DALI 2. Hence, I've created two actions. One is it will provide me with the operation ID, and the other is it will generate the image using the operation ID. So this documentation is already available in Microsoft Doc. Probably I'll show at the end of the demo where the APIs are and what more you can do with the APIs. So as of now, this is just the normal information about my action. That is, it is DALI image generator. It will fetch the image. Visibility, none, because I don't want this to be visible. Here comes the request. So this is the exact endpoint which I picked up from here. You can see this, and to more elaborate, this is the, I have already added it in that deck, but maybe I'll come to it. I'll post it, the link from where I picked it up. So if you can see in the here, OpenAI images generation submit. So once I hit this, it will provide me with some details. And along with that, I have to add API version, which API version I'm using. Content type, it will be application slash JSON. So once you are done with that, you just have to add the default value. If you want your end user to add it, you just can give required yes and let your end users add it. Type, it is string, and because I don't have any multiple choices, so it is just disabled. Coming back, API version I've added similarly here, and I've default added this value. Coming back again, body. This is the utmost important part. In the body, definitely body is required when you're making a post call. Visibility is none. There are 3 parameters which I'm expecting from the user. One is the number of images. Default, I've kept it 1. It should be of type integer as per the API documentation. Values you can keep as a drop-down choice for your users to select. Similarly, prompt, definitely this won't have any default value. It is required and it is of type string. Next is the size. So what is the size of your image? So you just give some choices and your user can select it. But by default, I gave it 1024 cross 1024. Once I've done this, next step is AI plugin. This is the newly introduced one. So what AI plugin does is, if you want to use this connector as part of your AI plugins in the Copilot Studio, you can configure it. I haven't configured this as of now, but once you configure this, you are good to use this AI plugin in your Copilot Studio as well as a separate connector. Code, if you want to add extra additional code so that you just make your responses and requests more secured and etc. So you can do it as well, but I haven't done anything here. Next, test. So now, if I want to test this, I haven't added the API key yet, but when you hit or when you save it, then you can just update the API key. It will ask you to add an API key. Once that is done, you can easily test this. Now let me just add Seattle skyline, just a small example, which is in my head right now. I'll test the operation. And you see, it provided me with the response, but it is saying not performing. Sorry, not running. So this is running because I've got the status 202. Why this status is not running? Because I've just generated the operation ID. It hasn't generated the image yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pick this up. I've created another action for which I have to go to the general definition. This is the separate action, and it is just a get call. It is using the operation ID to get the generated image. Again, I have done nothing. It just expects an operation ID, API version, which is hard-coded given default, content type application / JSON. Now I can just go ahead and test this, and I'll put the operation ID, test the operation, and it gives me the blob URL. Let's just pick this up, paste it. Oops. Yeah. And it generates an image of Seattle skyline. So how did I made use of this custom connector? Is I created an educational art application. Just a second. This is the app. If I just go to get started, these are some of the information about what image generation is, the API details. So this is what I did, 2-step process. You have to request a generated image and get the generated image. These are the 2 APIs. One is post call and the other is get call, with some of the post call with body and key, get call with just with the operation ID, which is generated from the previous step. Example, I am not going to use that. Design your own art. So these are some of the arts which I just gave sample prompts, and I'm going to design a futuristic city with flying cars and robots. And I'll hit generate image using DALL-E 2. And this is exactly consuming the custom connector. I'll show it once it has generated. It just takes some time to load. Yes. So because it was for kids, so you can see this is the futuristic city with flying cars. You can tweak in and make your prompts more better. This is just the sample which I've added. Also, you can just pull in anything and you can just generate images. Similarly, how I used it, just to show you, this is nothing which you can't do. Okay. So this is the exact custom connector, and the action which I'm using is generating image, and I'm passing all the required body parameters, saving that in saving the URL, and just using the image and just pasting use that variable here. So it has that exact blob URL which we just saw. So this is how I consumed DALL-E 2 model, and you can use it in a number of ways just to generate, not just generate or design art, but more specifically for your marketing or generating more good designs, etc. You can use the same in your Power Automates to automate something as well. This is just one example, but you can do a lot more with Azure OpenAI. DALL-E 2 is just one model. There are more text generation, summarize, generating email, etc. Similarly, if you want to do any of those stuff, everything is right here in Azure AI. All you have to do is just, you have to get that code, endpoint, and key, and you're good to go. So just before I close, yes, so this is exactly what we did. All the prompts, response, how you will be getting. The second step was a get call, and we got the image URL. Because I just added one as a parameter, I only want one image, hence it generates one URL. If you would have added 2, 3, 5, it would have generated those number of images for you. You can also, yes, the important step, you can also do one more thing, which is delete a generated image from the server. So by default, whenever, so just like I created an image, what this Azure API does is it will definitely delete the image from the server after some specific hours. But if you really want to delete it just right now from the server, then you just have to create this another action, which will be holding the delete or delete type of API, and then you can just pass in the information as operation ID, as we just did in the last step, and it will delete it from the server right away. This was the demo which I already covered, and which I was talking about. You can do lot of things with Azure OpenAI, and one such part is text generation, which is already part of AI Builder. I won't go in much depth because I think I've already covered my time. But these are the important learning paths from which you can get the DALL-E related information or API related information, which I've used, and custom connectors as well. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. And if you have any queries, I am open to answer.
Awesome stuff, Shrushti. Thank you. And those links, friends, I put into the chat. And for those that are watching, we'll get those into the show notes and everything. So really, really great job. Thank you so very much for showing us how to do that. Really cool stuff and tying all that technology together, which is obviously pertinent right now because OpenAI and Copilot and all that's the rage. So thank you for joining and sharing that. All right, everybody. Well, we're down to our last demo. Yours truly is here. So we're going to talk about setting up your environment for Power Platform UX UI animations. Who am I? Just in case you don't know, my name is David Warner. I am a fan of the community, work in the community, and work at Microsoft. But let's jump into exactly what we're going to talk about today. The best investment is in the tools of one's own trade, which means that as we are setting up to use animations within our Power Platform, specifically Power Apps, we need some tools. We want to get that utility belt full of tools that are going to be useful for us to be able to create some cool animations, right? So the first thing is we're going to want an editor, maybe a code editor. We're going to talk about VS Code today. And then we're going to step that tool belt up with even more cool tools and toys that make it even easier for us to be able to implement some of the cool features that we want. And then we're going to see what is next. Okay, so let's first start out with what exactly it is that we're going to use. VS Code, or otherwise known as Visual Studio Code, is a de facto Microsoft-provided free code editor for a variety of things. And when I say a variety, I mean not even code-related things, like editing your documents and stuff like that is a really cool way that Hugo Bernier has shared some really cool things and sharing is caring on how to do. Today, we're going to show how to utilize it for things like SVGs, because we know that within Power Apps, SVGs are a wonderful opportunity for us to add some flair and some interactive animations to our experience within our Power Apps. Okay, so let's start out by taking a look. I'm going to bring up VS Code here for us, and we're going to take a little bit of a journey on it, just in case you've not seen it before. So what you're looking at is VS Code. I've just opened it up, if you will, and you've got maybe some colors that you're like, wait, what's going on? This is all purple and orange. Well, I don't want that. Don't worry. it's actually extendable. You can customize it. That's one of the cool features of VS Code or Visual Studio Code, is that you can customize it with color themes and all that. So as you see me using this dark mode with a little bit of a Warner Digital or David Warner flair to it, that's just something I set up that makes me feel a little bit more happy and comfortable. And you can do the same. So definitely take advantage of these things. We're going to start out with what files we're working with today, right? So I've got a few things. We've got a sample HTML we're going to start out with, and then we've got a snowman in front of the fire. Okay, so what does that look like? Let's set the context for that first, right? So this is an SVG file that I had set up and customized a little bit. I got my nice little purple scarf, orange fire going on. My little orange buttons are there for me, and we're going to see how to take advantage of editing this and understanding it within the scope of VS Code and using that as our environment to develop in. Now, you could obviously use a whole bunch of other tools. CodePen is one. I personally like VS Code because it provides some extendability. It provides some cool ways for us to do more than it comes with out of the box. So let's start with what that looks like. I'm going to open up my sample HTML, and this is just a basic thing, right? I've really just literally got header and paragraph tag, right? So we're not focused too much on this, and I know in a low-code world, we're not looking to write a lot of code or work with a lot of syntax, and that's okay. But I want to give you a little bit of a tour around the way that you navigate within this space, right? So the first thing is I've got that. Now, I want to be able to preview my HTML as I'm starting to work with SVGs. And I noticed that there's some icons up here in the right that make it look like, hey, that's kind of, looks like it's got a little bit of a dual pane there that I can utilize. But what it does is it actually just separates it. So I could do comparison between two files. Not exactly what I'm looking for, but what VS Code offers is what's called extensions. And that's this little button over here on the left in the toolbar called extensions. Think of them as like plugins that Microsoft has provided, the community has provided, that allows us to add functionality to VS Code to allow us to do more, right? So I want to be able to preview my HTML. And so I know for a fact offhand that there is something called Live Preview that Microsoft provides, right? Pretty cool. So when you open that, you see that you got Live Preview. Now, I've already installed it. I've got it disabled right now, but I'm going to enable it. And if you have not installed it, then yours will say install, and it's absolutely free. So I'm going to enable it. Now it's enabled. If I go back to my sample HTML, you'll notice up here in the right, I now have an additional icon with a little magnifying glass. So when I click that, what a bing! I actually am now seeing a preview. What it's done is it's very quickly created for me a live web server, just local host, being able to process and see my code. Pretty cool. Okay, great. So what else can I do? Well, what are the benefits of using VS Code? It comes with things called IntelliSense. So what it means is it understands what file I'm in. So I can come into my paragraph tag and I can come in and say, hey, I want to do a style with CSS. And we saw CSS in yesterday's demo. And if you didn't watch that video, we'll provide links. But CSS allows us to change the look and feel of our solution, right? So I'm going to say that. I'm going to say color. Now it sees that I've got that. And I could say, okay, cool, I want to do orange. And you'll notice that it's pre-populating a whole bunch of stuff for me. And that's pretty slick, right? So I can come in and I can say orange. And now immediately I'm seeing that update to my first paragraph, right? So it's just providing us an understanding. Now, is that cool? Is that useful? Yeah, but check this out. This is even better. As I hover over that color, I get a little pop-up that gives me what the RGB value is for it. Well, that's not bad. And then, is it interactive? You betcha. Because I can then change this to say, I want to make it a nice little purple. And then, bam, you see that immediately it's already taken on the color that I've done there, which is pretty slick, right? So if I come in here and click that again, I can also click on the little banner. Let's say I need the hex value. Instead, I can click on that and I can just cycle through the different ways in which a color property can be identified. I've got the HSL, HWB, back to RGB. If I wanted to adjust the transparency for it, look at that. I just make that change. And what's happening is it adds that fourth property onto the RGB with an A, which stands for alpha, which means that this has transparency. This comes in handy when we start looking at SVGs and videos. Maybe not so much for text, and that's okay. But the value and the interactive property here is the same, right? Pretty cool. Okay, well, what else do we got? We have that SVG. So I'm going to close this preview. And we know we've got that snowman fire SVG. So I'm going to open that up. And what's happening is now it just looks like plain text, right? I'm able to also kind of see the whole file and document over here on the right, so I can actually go down. But man, that's just white and black. I don't really see any value there. It's not fully understanding what an SVG is. And I would like to actually preview the SVG. We see that the preview is no longer there, right? So I could do a couple things. I could copy and paste this, go back to my HTML, and paste that in. And now we see the color coding has come in. I can preview it, and I see a portion of my SVG. It's bigger than the space that's available here. Not exactly what I want. I want to be able to work with the SVG directly. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go back to my extension store. I'm going to search for SVG, and I'm going to find that there is an SVG extension for me to use, right? Pretty cool. So I'm going to open that up. Already got it installed, but you would install it. I'm going to enable it. And now when I go back to my SVG, I now have some IntelliSense going on, which is pretty cool, right? So I don't need to go copy it into HTML. I can if I want to, but I can work directly with the HTML or with the SVG, excuse me. And you'll notice, wow, a preview comes back. So what happens now? Well, I'm going to gain a little bit more screen real estate, close that. And I'm going to now edit it. Well, holy cow. Now, this is more than just a preview. I seem to have a toolbar up here, which is pretty slick, right? So it does a variety of things. I could change the way in which my background is looking, right? So I can change that around if I want to. I've got some rulers if I need to be able to measure. I'm able to see it in an image property. I'm able to select the CSS. I'm able to export it as a ping. So if I needed to export this as a ping, I'm able to get some crosshairs here, right? So you can kind of see that crosshair there if you need to check alignment on some things. One of my coolest and favorite features here, though, is the ability to interact, right? So I can interact with this SVG because if you notice, SVGs over here, it's a bunch of math, everybody, and it looks really ugly, and no one's writing this from heart. Maybe Chris could because the guy's amazing when he writes list formatting and does that kind of stuff. But I think mere mortals like myself, I'm not really going to be writing this from scratch. I'm going to be editing an existing file. And if you don't have like Illustrator or something like that, you might want to work within this space because you're going to still take this code and you're going to move it into Power Apps, right? So for example, check this out. I am going to work with my Code Interactive, and as I hover over my variety of properties here, you'll notice there's a little border that is outlining that. Well, what does that mean? It means I can click it, and what's happened is over in my code, it's a little dark on my theme, but you can see that it's outlined it and it's selected the line where that is located at, right? So I'm going to go in there. I am going to turn on word wrap, and we can see, I'll click it again. So there we go. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do a fill on this, right? And we can see that it also is giving us IntelliSense there too, right? So pretty cool. So I'm going to go orange. And we see now IntelliSense has also come up, and it's changed for me right then and there, right? So I've got orange now, and if I want to change some of those properties, I can do that, right? Same format. I can come in here and I can say, I want to make it a nice pink or something else. So we get that cool interactive ability with the SVG. We're also able to see what some of these things mean, right? So what's happening is as I hover over that, it tells me what that element is. So we've got a learning opportunity here as well, right? And it gives me a reference point, which is a URL to learn more about that individual path or element within the SVG. Okay, so some pretty cool ways, right? These are ways that we're setting up our environment, setting up our tool belt. Now, what I'm going to do is I am going to remove that, take it back to normal. The last piece that I want to show you that's more setting up the what's next. Again, we're going to cover in future iterations. I'm going to start a series on these calls for SVG animation, interactive opportunities within Power Apps. Of course, we want to be able to animate, right? So look at my fire here. I've got little elements that I can actually interact with individually, right? So I've got the little white flames, the orange flame, the dark orange flame. What I've done is I've created some simple animation here that are using IDs. And so if I go down to, I've kind of commented down a few just by adding a name. And now what's happening is if I just turn on my animation, it's subtle, but look, it adds a little bit of interactive feeling. It adds some depth to my SVG. Now, of course, this is just a fun way of providing exposure to this. But there are very practical ways in which we can implement this in a business use case within Power Apps. And so we're going to continue to go through a series here of utilizing VS Code, other component opportunities within Power Apps, features and functionality that is going to allow you to implement a lot of this stuff in a fun way. Okay, so let's go back to our chat or our slides and we'll wrap it up here. So again, a Visual Studio Code. We've got the live preview, right, which I showed you, gives you the ability to see all that, kind of hosts a local server on your workspace. We've got our SVG extension, which allows you to interact with that SVG, right? So where does he get all those wonderful toys? Again, utilize these AKAs. We'll put them in the chat. We'll share them with everybody, and you'll be able to take advantage. Now, what is next, right? So I am going to be doing more demos and videos on this topic here, likely in combination with some others in the community. I love the co-presentation opportunities. We're going to go over some additional SVG animation properties and techniques that are available within Power Apps. Now, I mentioned those extensions, right? The live preview extension, the SVG extension. Well, guess what? I'm going to create one that is specifically for Power Platform animation. So be on the lookout, because what it's going to do is it's going to give you some options in context menu, and it's going to give you some tools that you can utilize specifically just for converting your SVGs for use in Power Apps. So it's going to be nice, quick tools and ways in which you can limit and cut down the time needed to sometimes convert and get those things into Power Apps. And then I'm going to be creating additionally some Power App component libraries for some tools that we'll share within the community samples. So lots of cool stuff coming up. Thank you again for staying extra. I know we went long. I appreciate everybody's patience and excited to see what we're going to do next. All right, let's wrap this call up. Want to thank Franck and Shrushti for presenting today. Amazing stuff. Thank you for being who you are in the community and sharing all that information with us. It is fantastic, and we could not be more excited for what you all are sharing. We have an official Discord server, so please, we've hit over 1,000. This is a fun and kind of futuristic, cool kid way of getting collaboration into the community. So it's a one-stop shop. Those who are not familiar with Discord, it's an ability to cover multiple topics within our Discord server. And of course, likely you've got other Discord servers you're connected to in life. There's a variety of them around the world and other areas of your life. And lastly, provide some feedback. So let us know what you think of these calls. Let us know if you like them or there's some things that you would like improved. Definitely want to share this with our management, and it provides valuable insights for us to be able to continue doing these things. The recording will be available in 24 hours on the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Community YouTube channel. Check it out at ak.ms/community/videos. Subscribe to those channels. You will be alerted as soon as it is available. If you try to download it within Teams, it'll just end up in sadness if you're not a Microsoft employee. So definitely go subscribe. Follow us on Twitter or X or whatever we're going to call it tomorrow at M365PNP. And of course, the latest updates at LinkedIn, ak.ms/community/li. Our next M365 and Power Platform bi-weekly call 2 weeks from today, February 1st. Woo, already into February. Be here, same time, same channel, next Viva Connections SharePoint Framework on January 25th next week. And we will have another collection of amazing presenters for you to learn from and us learn together. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your week and a fantastic weekend. Thank you for all that you're doing. We would not be here without you.